Hello everyone, welcome to Commerce classes. Today we'll be starting with the practical part, and our practical questions are of two types. Number one is the preparation of statement of affairs and another is the final statement submitted by the liquidator. Now starting with the first one, that is statement of affairs. Statement of affairs is not having a general meaning that you till now know. In case of liquidation of companies, statement of affairs is an statement of estimates of realizations from the assets and payment of liabilities in the preference order, thereby giving us surplus or deficiency, which will then be matched with the statement of surplus or deficiency under Schedule H. So this statement of affairs is to be prepared strictly in accordance with the Companies Act schedule. Now, in order to prepare the statement of affairs, we all know that there are two parts to it, two main parts. Number one is we are realizing the assets, not exactly realizing right now, but we are making an estimate of how much cash will be realized from the assets. That is, from the asset side, we are to record estimated realizable values. On the other side, we are to pay the liabilities in the preference order, which implies that our statement of affairs will be having two main parts. First, it will show realizations of the assets. Secondly, it will show payment of the liabilities. Now, before we start with the statement, we need to do some preliminary work because the statement is to be done according to the schedule. So, we need to know all the things beforehand and we can just put in the information in the statement. So, before you start with the proper format and all, we are to do some preliminary steps. Step 1 is classify your assets. All the assets that you have, right? Like in this case, you have these assets, and out of these, we know that P&L is not an asset. So just leave it. Remaining all are your assets. Classify them into two categories according to the way in which we are to show them. The categories are free assets and the assets specifically pledged. Because the realizable value of the assets is shown under two headings. List A, free assets, assets not specifically pledged, and list B, assets specifically pledged against the secured liabilities. So these are all assets. Go through the question and put a mark, and if possible, prepare a preliminary statement. So what do we have here? We have all these assets. In liabilities, we are given debentures have a floating charge. Nothing else is given here. Go into the details. Assets are valued at. That means these are the realizable values, estimated value that we are likely to realize. Yes. Overdraft is secured by the deposit of title deed of leasehold property. That means this is our asset which is specifically pledged. So leasehold property will come under list B. So first step, classification of assets in two categories. So leasehold property, we can write the amount also, because that will make our job easier because we won't have to look here again. So how many free assets are left? So in free assets, we will be having machine, 1,80,000. Leasehold property is classified here. Investment will give us 12,000. Stock will give us 6,000. Debtors will give us 1,40,000 as given to us. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 we have written here, 1 here. But look here, we should cover all assets. Machinery is covered. Leasehold property comes here. Stock is here in free assets. Debtors free assets. Investment free assets. And of course cash. Now apart from the assets which we are writing here, do you think any other asset also, anything else qualifies here? Yes, if you have any unrecorded asset, okay, and it is likely to fetch you some amount, that will also qualify here. So it will come under free assets. Maybe that you had some machine which you had completely written off from the books, but now as a junk, it gave you say 5,000 rupees. So you fetched 5,000 rupees. So it is again an asset being realized. So amount will come here. Likewise, from liability side, we know that in the capital, if some amount is in arrear, then company calls up these shareholders to recover the amount. So any calls in arrear will also qualify under the assets because they are going to give you cash. Now sometimes we are given that out of these areas say only 1000 is recoverable. So whatever recoverable amount is there we will write. If nothing is given, it means all areas can be recovered. So full amount will be recovered here. So this is recorded here. So we have covered all assets. That completes our first step. Our second step is to classify the liabilities. Now for the liabilities we have remaining part of the list given in the schedule. So preference order, just remember the preference order. So our preference order says first of all secured liabilities. Okay. Then you have preferential payments or preferential creditors, which includes any kind of government cess, taxes, etc., excise duty payable. Then payments to the employees in the form of their salaries, in the form of their holiday benefits which are to be paid to them, in the form of any kind of pension, retirement benefits, pension fund, gratuity fund, or in the form of any kind of compensation which is payable to the employee or to legal heir of a deceased employee in case of the, say, his death, or in case of any liability in regard of compensation, okay, against employees compensation fund. So the 4 employees payments, remember, employee matlab the person who is employed on a payroll of a company. And when we say employee, so your company's secretary, office people, they will all come here. But if somebody says directors haven't been paid their salary, then directors are not the employees. If you remember your corporate law, your directors are the elected representatives representing the shareholders. So they are a part of members or owners. So directors payments are not qualifying here. Here in employees salary, employees payments due are qualifying here. Okay, so you have number 1 secured liability, then you have preferential payments. I am just writing the list, then we will classify liabilities here. Then after preferential payments we have the liabilities having floating charge on all assets. Okay, so some assets are fully pledged against some liabilities. They are secured liabilities, fully secured liabilities. Some secured liabilities are not against a particular asset, but they have an overall charge against all the assets. So this qualifies here. Then you have unsecured liabilities, right? Then you have owners payments, that is preference share capital. Paid up capital will be paid, remember. Okay, so if somebody hasn't paid you money and then you are going to pay him back, you won't pay him, only paid up capital. And then equity share capital. Now this preference order is given in the list also, which I explained you in the previous lecture. So this is list B, list C, list D, list E, list F, list G, and list H is for deficiency account. So these are the liabilities in the preference order. We have to remember this order. Now put all the liabilities here. Debentures. So share capital will qualify here. Preference capital is not here. So this is equity share capital, right? So it will qualify here. It is ranking here. Debentures secured by floating charge. So debentures will rank here. 1,50,000. Just put everything. It will make our job easier. Bank overdraft, here it is not written, but we are given that it has a security of the leasehold property. So bank overdraft is coming here, 54,000. What else do we have here? Creditors. So nothing for creditors, so they will qualify here. Creditors 60,000. Okay. Now you have, there are preferential liabilities of 60,000 not included above. So this is some new liability coming up during the process, that this 60,000 is also to be paid, and these are preferential liabilities. We are not given the name, but since we are given preferential creditors, preferential liabilities, so it will come here. So it is an unrecorded liability cropping up now. So these are all your liabilities. So you have written all 1, 2, 3, 4 and one more coming here, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We have written all. So what we have done, this is our preliminary work. We classified assets into two categories as per the list A and list B. This is list A, list B. Then we categorized all our liabilities in this. Now remember, when we are writing this list here for the liabilities, then we must remember two important provisions here. Pari passu clause, that is workman's payments. Any payment due in the form of wages to the workman, their holiday payments, okay, payment on account of their holidays or the payment on account of their welfare or compensation, they qualify in pari passu clause. So they have to be paid along with the secured liabilities. Just remember, in case you do not understand this clause, then please go back 2 videos and you will be finding their pari passu clause and overriding preferential payments. So that clause says that if there is any such payment towards workmen, then it is at the same level as to the secured liability. So out of the assets pledged here, they are to be paid along with this. So if amount is available, pay them in full, else pay them proportionately. So herein pari passu clause has to be seen. We are not having here anything regarding that, so we can leave it. But if that clause is here, then you need to make payment out of the assets that you have pledged. Now you can link the two. This asset is pledged against this liability, so it is to be paid here. And if anything is left as unpaid in the workman's due and in the secured liability because of the clause, then it will qualify here before preferential payments. So it will qualify here. So something has to be paid here and here, right? So you are to look at that angle also. It is not here. So right now our question is a bit simple. So now we have the lists. So the first two parts of our statement of affairs can be done easily. So what we can do is we can make a format statement of affairs of X Limited as on 1st April 2017. When the company goes into liquidation, at that time we have this statement being prepared. All right. So right now we have only two columns, one for the particulars, another for the amounts. Later on, when the liabilities come for second part, we have got one more column here. So right now only this much. So what do we write here? These are the particulars and these are estimated realizable value. I am writing it in abbreviation, but please note it down fully. Estimated realizable value. So what is to be written here? We have made two categories here. So first of all we will record assets not specifically pledged as per list A. All right. So what does it includes? Not specifically pledged. That means free assets. So machinery 1,80,000, investment 12,000, stock 6,000. So see, now you have got your work easy. Okay. So things are moving quite quickly because we have noted down. We should have written cash amount also 3,000. Then there is no need to look at the balance sheet. We don't need that balance sheet now. We have everything here. So this is the total, that is gross realizable value of assets not specifically pledged. Okay. So how much is the total? 3,41,000. Now coming to assets specifically pledged against liabilities. This is as per list B. Now list B is common. In assets also it is coming because it has some assets being pledged, and in liabilities also it will come because liabilities are against these assets, right? So it is coming in both. Now what do we have here? We just have here one asset. But before we write it, we need to make 4 columns here. which includes realizable value, estimated realizable value, amount due to the secured liabilities. Okay, write it fully if possible. Then you have deficiency, if any, which will be taken towards unsecured liabilities. Okay, and you have surplus, which will be taken in the last column. So you have asset pledged here, leasehold property. We have to write the name of the asset. This asset is fetching you 2,18,000 and your liability against this is 54,000. So you are able to pay it. So there is no deficiency, but you have a surplus of 1,64,000. Okay. So if there are 2 or more assets, we can total up the amounts also. So if deficiency is there, it qualifies for the unsecured creditors because we could not cover it through the security. But if you have got surplus, it means the money is available. You can use it for all other liabilities. So what do we get here? We get 1,64,000 here. So what we can write it? Estimated surplus. Okay, so this is estimated surplus now available for payment of remaining liabilities. Okay, so I am just writing remaining liabilities. You can write the details also. In the book you have a complete amount being written, everything written here. What are the remaining liabilities? If you look here, the remaining liabilities, you have paid it. Remaining liabilities are preferential payments, secured liabilities having floating charge, and unsecured liabilities. So we can write it here, estimated surplus available for payment of preferential payments, secured liabilities having floating charge, and unsecured liabilities. Right? So that completes our assets. Now herein the format requires us to prepare a short statement here, a statement of gross assets. Okay, so gross assets, why? Because we don't know the total of the assets that we have got. We got some assets which are not specifically pledged. We have got some surplus from the pledged assets. But what is the total value of the assets that we have got here? So we will write it here. Assets specifically pledged. So from these assets you got 2,18,000 and assets not specifically pledged. So estimated realizable value of assets not specifically pledged 3,41,000. So the gross value of the assets specifically pledged is 5,59,000. You can easily see here. You paid your liability of 54,000 and you are left with 5,04,000. It means your total value is 5,59,000. Now that covers our assets. Okay, so our assets are complete here, and now we are to continue with the next part. So just underline it here, and we are to start with the payment of the liabilities. So it has to be continued like this, right? So herein you will be having one column on the left side which will record the liabilities, and the other side we will be recording the liabilities payment out of available balance. So this is balance available. Now you are to pay the liabilities one by one. So particulars of liabilities. All right. And herein we will be writing gross amounts. Now the key is that we are to record the liabilities one by one and we are to show the payments. Okay, so we need to have that list of liabilities with us. Number 1, secured liability. Alright, so first of all we will be recording secured liabilities as per list B. Okay, so this includes bank overdraft secured against leasehold property. So we are to record all liabilities here. So 54,000 gross amount, but we won't show any payment here. And can you think of the reason? Reason is that it has already been paid here and we are showing here the final amount. So this is the amounts available for remaining liabilities. But since we are to list out all liabilities, so we listed it here but we didn't pay it. Alright. So after this, we are to record the next thing, that is preferential creditors. Preferential creditors as per list C. Okay, this is next thing. Now we just have only preferential creditors being given. We are not given their bifurcation. So we will write here preferential liabilities as the total amount is given 60,000. Now on this side we will show the payment. So if you pay 60,000, how much is left with you? 4,45,000. Okay. So what will we call this? This is estimated net assets or estimated total assets available for payment of. Now what type of liabilities are left? Because we have to record it here. So this amount is available for payment of, you have paid this, you have paid this. So it is available for secured liabilities with floating charge and unsecured liabilities, right? So this is available here. Now you are to continue the statement, so it will be continued to the next sheet. So you will have to link it somewhere with the sheet. Alright, so it's a long statement. The amounts will be carried forward to the next part. Okay, so we will record it like this. Gross amount, particulars of liabilities, right? Okay, so estimated total assets brought forward. So you have brought forward this amount, or you can record the whole thing again, and herein you have got a total of 1,14,000. Okay, so we brought down the amounts here. Now coming to the next set of liabilities. So next is secured liabilities having floating charge. So we will title it secured liabilities having floating charge over all assets as per list D. So this is the heading of the liability. Now you will enumerate the liabilities one by one, and we just have here debentures. If there are two or more liabilities, you can list them here. So 1,50,000 amount is noted here and noted here. Okay, so you pay it. So you are left with 2,95,000. So this is estimated total assets available for payment of. Now whom is to be paid? You paid this also, so now you are left with unsecured creditors. Okay, so unsecured creditors as per list E. So the title is to be given, heading is to be given. Again, there is only one liability here, so it may involve a lot of time in writing, but we have to write anyway. Okay, so now when you pay this, suppose you were having unsecured creditors, you have outstanding expenses or something else, so same thing will come here. Okay, so this is estimated total assets available for payments to members, shareholders. Okay, so this is now available. So this is also called estimated surplus as regard unsecured creditors. That is, After payment of unsecured creditors, we are left with this surplus. So this can also be written as estimated surplus. So wherever we have the assets available, we can call them either the surplus or we can call them deficiency. So there are different terms being used in different questions. So it is up to you. Pick up one term and follow the same. But when it comes to shareholders, then we need to use surplus or deficit. Otherwise, we have to record total assets. So you have got this surplus available for the contributories for the members. So when you find out the amount available for shareholders, it means your external liabilities are over. So on this side, we will total up external liabilities. Okay. So our external liabilities were 3,24,000, and if you compare it with the gross assets available, right, this was the gross asset available and these are the total of the liabilities. So if you pay all the liabilities out of gross assets, see it here, gross assets, and these are the total liabilities. So if you compare the two, you know that you should have a balance of 2,35,000 that you are getting here. So this is also cross-checking of the amount in the table. So you paid all the external liabilities. Now we are to record preference share capital as per list F, then equity share capital as per list G. Okay, so it was not there, but equity capital is 2,40,000. Now if you are to pay 2,40,000 out of 35, you don't have a surplus now. If there was some surplus left, we will say surplus available for equity shareholders. So this is additional value available for equity shareholders. But right now we don't have any surplus. We have got a loss, deficiency. So this will be regarded as deficiency as regard whom? Shareholders. So this is the deficiency of the shareholders or the members. So this is the statement of affairs. 2 parts over. Okay. Now next is schedule H, list H, because the statement is prepared with 8 informations: list A, list B, then you have list B coming again in liabilities, then list C, preferential creditors as per list C, list D, secured liabilities with floating charge, list E, unsecured creditors, then you have the list F and list G. Now next is list H. List H is a separate thing, because through list H we are explaining how this deficiency is arrived at. Because when we look at the question, the shareholders were having only loss in business of 1,20,000. Okay, so how come we have got a deficiency of 5,000 only available for them when they had so much of loss available? So we are to explain this, the state of reaching to 5,000 from 120. This is their deficiency as per the question, as per the available information. But when we close down this statement, the deficiency that they are to bear is only 5,000. The amount could have increased also, the amount could have reduced. So, but it has to be explained. So, for that matter, a list H is prepared. So, list H is nothing but the explanation of the deficiency, right? So, in the list H, we are basically preparing deficiency account in statement form. Okay, so we are to make the deficiency account in list H. Now in this again, I'll be writing it in a separate sheet. It should be continued here, but if I write it here and then continue with the next page, you might not be able to understand list H. Since list H is a separate thing, so let us understand it separately. So list H, and what is this? Deficiency account. All right. Now in this list, what is to be written? It has 2 components. Like when we prepare an account in T form, on one side you have all the profits, on one other side you have all the losses. This is how we prepare an account, a nominal account. It's also a nominal account, but it is to be prepared in statement form. In company accounts, you are finding that most of our accounts are in statement form. Final statements are prepared not in T-shape but in a statement format. So this account is also being prepared in statement format. Now, as per the format given, we are to first record items contributing to the deficiency, right? So first of all, we will be recording the items. This is first part, items contributing to deficiency. So how do we start with this? And on the other side we have items reducing deficiency, that is profits in the sense. Okay, so this is to be recorded. Now, in order to remember the components, just remember there are 3 stages here. And what are these stages? And we have to list out everything here. We have to start from here, what we have in the balance sheet. If it is a loss, it is contributing to deficiency. If it is a profit, it is contributing to lesser, it is reducing deficiency. So we have to decide, number 1, what is available for shareholders, where should it be written. So we have P&L available here, that is excess of liabilities over assets. So it can be written as excess of liabilities plus capital over assets, okay, as shown in the balance sheet, 1,20,000. Okay, so this is 1,20,000. Now, this deficiency has to be explained over a period of 3 years. That is, in the last 3 years, if any changes have taken place, then the same must be reported. So in the last 3 years, if we are given companies having any profit or any loss, so for that said period of 3 years has to be adjusted here. So since this is the items contributing to deficiency, so it will be recorded as net trading loss during the specified period. We are not given anything, okay. Net non-trading loss during the specified period. Again, no such information is given. Then you have any kind of bonus issue or dividends being given during the period. So if such information is there, it will be reported. So trading loss, non-trading loss, or any kind of dividend or bonus issue being given. And finally, we have estimated losses on realization of assets or payment of liabilities. So if you have any losses on the reassessment of liabilities or assets, losses will contribute to deficiency here. And any other information, okay, any other item. So any other item means that if anything is given which is contributing to deficiency will be reported here. So it covers any uncertain thing. So the list is not exhaustive that we have to remember 6 things, 5 things. So anything. So if any information is given here which you think is going to add to the deficiency, it will come here. Now coming to items reducing deficiency. Okay, so you have 2 components here. If we remember one component, the other is just the opposite. All losses are being recorded here, so all components here will be the gains. So here in excess of assets over liabilities as shown. Okay, it is not shown here. Loss contributes to deficiency, so trading profit during the said period will reduce your deficiency. Non-trading profit, if any, again during the relevant period, last 3 years period have to be explained here. So bonus issue is always given, so it is never a case of that we are having any gain in that. So it will be there. Then you have fourth. Herein you will be having estimated gains on realization of assets or assessment of liabilities. And finally, any other item reducing deficiency. Okay, anything else which is not here in this problem, not much is given. So we have this loss here, and we are to come to the net surplus or deficiency, which is appearing in our statement of affairs as, finally we had 5,000. So this 5,000 is to be explained. So this is your journey from 1,20,000 to 5,000 that you reached here. No such information is there, and since this topic has been included for the first time, so you can expect that not much details will be given in the question. So it is going to be a simple question, but the format has to be there. So you have to record it. Now coming to the realization of assets and payment of liabilities. So just compare the two. You can start one by one. Machinery 90 and 180. So you got profit on realization of machinery. So estimated profit is 90. Leasehold property 120 in the books, 2,18,000. So leasehold property will also give you profit. Okay, then you have investment 18,000 but 12,000 here. So you are likely to have loss here. So investment 6,000. Okay, then stock. Again, stock is giving you profit of 3,000. Okay. Then you have debtors 1,40,000 and books show 1,50,000. So in debtors you have a loss of 10,000. Okay. So this is 16,000 coming here. All right. So that gives you for the assets. Now liabilities. Liabilities, you have one more liability coming up in the process, 60,000. So your preferential creditors for liabilities which were not there earlier. Okay, so 60,000. So your overall deficiency is this is 16,000, 60,000. Okay, so 1,96,000. All right. And herein you have 1,91,000. Okay, so this is deficiency and this is the reduction in the deficiency. So net deficiency 5,000. So you have explained that deficiency of 5,000. So herein you are just explaining the deficiency. Okay, so the work is of course lengthy and tedious. And if you think that you can prepare it directly by looking at the question, then it is doubtful. We may miss a few things because procedure is quite lengthy. So it is better you prepare a short note for this. Pick up all the assets, classify them here in two categories. So your first part of the statement is over. Now look at all liabilities, classify them in the order. It has two benefits, like we won't miss anything. And secondly, when we put everything in order, then we know that this order is going to be correct. Because the moment you put something at wrong place and you read it, you will say that yes, it is at the wrong place. So it will reduce your errors, right? So just make a short note along with the amounts. Because if we don't write the amount again, we'll have to go back to the question again and again. So write the amounts also, and this preliminary work is to be done. Then first part of the statement is for the assets. You can easily write it. Second part of the statement is for the liabilities. Now while recording the liabilities, remember every time we are to give the heading and then we are to write the liability and then balance it. Again the heading, okay, and then balancing. All right. So this is how it is done. Finally, the deficiency that we arrive at has to be explained through deficiency account in schedule or list H. Now this list H format is also there. You explain the deficiency coming from here to the deficiency that you have arrived at there. So if you have any P&L, general reserve here, so these two will come here. Losses will come here, profits and reserves will come here because they will reduce deficiency. Then your trading losses, non-trading losses, of course, when we calculate loss or profit here, it has to be after all the expenses being met off. That means depreciation, taxes, or any other expenses for that matter must have been deducted to calculate this trading loss or the non-trading loss. Then you have bonus issue or dividend being given in the last years, that will also be written here. And finally, any profit or loss arising from the realization of the assets or payment of the liabilities. So this will be clubbed here, and finally you will be getting the net deficiency. If you can remember this, this is just the opposite. So it's not that we have to remember so many things. It is just the opposite of this. Essential part is that we have to reach from the balance sheet information, okay, to the amount that we have calculated. So this is the main component, balance sheet information, and secondly the realizations will give you some profit or loss. So this is going to be the main components. Rest is just written in the format. I hope this is clear to you. So we will take up a few more questions to understand the procedure. Okay, so we can't remember the whole 3-page list. You cannot remember it. The key to understanding and making a correct statement is remember it in 3 categories: assets, liabilities, and deficiency account. So that way, for each thing you have to remember just a small. By looking at the assets, this can be done. This is just the liabilities. By looking at the liabilities, this can be done. Okay, and then when you are to reach from the balance sheet profit or loss to the profit or loss that you have finally arrived at, from here to here, you are just to compare the things. Compare assets with their value, liabilities with their assessed values. So that will reduce your work a lot. So just practice a few more questions of this type. Alright, thank you.